Hi, everyone. Welcome back to High Heels to Happy Feels. I'm Stephanie
And I'm Natalie.
from Immersive Spirit. And this week we're digging right in because anxiety, top of mind. Everything is making us incredibly anxious right now. We're coming off, from an astrological standpoint, we're coming off of the energy of Mercury being retrograde. It's back in direct. We're coming off Venus retrograde. We are in a full moon as of our recording date today, going in, a full moon in Libra this evening. And so there's a lot of energy. Add a little bit of, I don't know, politics and just kind of the global conundrum, tariffs, etc. Yeah. But I was watching, and I was telling you about this earlier, this podcast with Mel Robbins. And she had Dr. Tracy, and I'm going to get the name wrong, so let me confirm. Um, Dr. Tracy Marks. And she is a psychiatrist. She's been a psychiatrist for like 25 years. And as I'm listening to this, I cracked up. And so I made Natalie go through and listen to it with me. It was amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's all the things that we already teach without having to go to a psychiatrist. And so I just kind of thought, well, that's interesting. It, got into the grounding and got into breath work and, some of those things I was sharing with you.
Yep.
So I figured today is, in talking with you about this, and you were like, yeah, with anxiety, it'd be a really good time for us to talk about what people can do.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. And I have a couple friends that really they suffer from anxiety. And when it happens, they call me
Yeah,
because we're so used to getting people out of their left head, and
yeah,
they're like hospitalization type anxiety. So yes, I think it's a great topic.
right. Like urgent care kind of stuff, right? Where they're
Oh,
like,
emergency room, like admitted with medicine.
"Ugh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's dilapidating when you let it be. And getting
Yeah.
out of your left brain and just redirecting your focus. And it sounds like, we make it sound like it's really easy. It's just doing this, but we get it. There's steps involved. And it's not like we don't have anxiety and we don't have those times where you're up against it and you feel those emotions. And we'll talk about that. But what I found really fascinating about this podcast, listening to it, the examples, the real life examples, I'm like, yep, we live that. We understand
Mhm.
it. The grounding examples, identical to what is taught spiritually by almost everybody if they're doing grounding and they're doing the breath work examples and so on. So I thought, you know what? We are resharing these because we do them already. And if people are involved with our living your, the framework for living your soul, or the foundation for spiritual living that we offer, which are our two premier giant programs with Immersive Spirit because they're super intense, these are going to resonate with you deeply because you're doing them. You're doing them in these courses. We make you.
Right.
So yeah, why don't we let me make sure that's turned down. Why don't we start with, I don't know. Should we start with grounding?
Yeah.
Or do you want to start maybe an example of why? Let's give examples.
Examples of why people
Of
have
what,
panic
yeah,
attacks.
of like your friend, for example. What is it that makes them anxious or and then what are some tips that you give them?
So I think that's the biggest problem. And they aren't fully on board with discovering their spirituality or journaling or, getting down to root cause of things, which I think is really important. And I
Mhm.
will get there. Um, so I don't think that they really understand why they're anxious because every time, there's been multiple times they call me and we'll sit on the phone and I'm like, well, why do you feel this way?
Right.
And at the point that they call me, it is way too late to have that conversation. And
Yeah,
then after it happens, they don't want to work on it. So it's really about getting them through it. But I think we have a lot of ideas about like a toolbox they could create before that they can work through, and then things that they can do after. But I think we have a lot of tips and tricks that they can do, techniques that they can do during that will help them.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good point because the first thing you should be doing, honestly, if you're digging into this, and even if you're not a spiritual person, you don't have to call it shadow work. You call it journaling. You call it Dear Diary. You call it whatever you want to. But if you were writing that down and being honest about your emotion and what triggered that emotion in that moment, it is a form of shadow work because you're digging into cause, effect, cause, effect. Now, how do I take that from cause to a not cause to um,
Right.
so that I don't have to react, so that I don't feel like all these things have to be something that come up, that you have to tackle.
Right. And I think um I agree with your terminology because shadow work gets a lot of like witchy woo-woo vibes,
Right?
but shadow work does just really mean something that you don't see every day that you don't really understand about yourself, bringing that into the light so you can deal with it. Like the shadow term has nothing to do with spirituality.
Right.
And it's not the dark side either. It's just something, let's call it blind spot work.
Right. Oh, that's perfect. Because yeah, people automatically think shadow work and they're like, oh, Book of Shadows. Oh,
Right.
craft. Oh, and it's like, no, it's the other side of you. It's the side you don't see. It's the side back here where the sun's hitting you here and it's back here. And so you don't see it. And you
Yeah,
just
it's your blind spot. And
it's a
once
blind
you
spot.
once you can see your blind spot and you're like, "Hey, that's not me. I didn't ever come up with that expectation. I never came up with how I was supposed to feel about this." And then you start dealing with it. And
Right.
that's when the real work gets done and the attacks, I don't know if they would cease to exist. The two people that I work with on a consistent basis with this have no interest in doing the work. So,
Yep. And then that means that you're dealing then with the tools and like you said, techniques we'll talk about in a little bit of
mhm.
okay, so now how do you deal with it now that it's happening? But if you really want to stay away from it, and there's always going to be anxiety.
Oh, for
Everybody
sure.
has, there's stressors, there's things in our life that are just going to make us anxious. There's no way around that. But you can absolutely control how you react to it. And you can recognize, are there certain things like an example that was given on this podcast that I loved because it's very relatable for us in our corporate jobs. When you walk into a room, if you are that insecure person or you have a lot of things that you haven't dealt with and that anxiety kicks in because the whole room turns around and looks at you, are you if you're that person, or are you the strong person who doesn't acknowledge, it's like whatever. Because if you're you're the person that's anxious, you're thinking, am I wearing the right thing? Am I not supposed to be here? Do they think I shouldn't be here?
Mhm.
Blah, blah, blah. And guess what? No one is thinking about anybody else in that capacity. No
Right.
one. That is our selfishness in each of us to think that it's about us somehow.
Well, and even worse than that is they don't even understand why they're having a panic attack. Like we had we had a release party today and we had a community member and she's very aware of herself and her surroundings and she digs deep quickly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when she is afraid of a specific thing and started to dive into it. Not that it caused her a full-on panic attack, but she never, had she not done that work, she never would have realized why she's truly not okay in that moment.
Right. Right. But it was the shadow work that got her to that point to say,
Right,
oh, and then listening further to take it up a notch to attack it and to deal with
right.
that, right? And not make it so that it's something that causes anxiousness, but going forward will cause joy.
Exactly. And that's the kind of work that I want everybody to be able to do and to understand.
Yeah.
Take it out of your blind spot, start digging in, identify the real root causes, because the root cause of, she was telling us about is totally different than what she actually thought was the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Exactly.
was the cathartic thought for the day.
It really was. And it was so cool to just
Yeah.
listen to her story. And yeah. And the other side of that is you might be that person that walks into so when you're thinking about all those judgments and then that makes you anxious. So every time you go into a meeting, people are going to turn around. They just are. It's human nature. The person that doesn't acknowledge it or have those anxious feelings is like, hmm, they all turned, they all looked, and then they all looked away. I must not be the person they were looking for right now. Cool. Go find my.
Okay. So I'm always going to bring up manifesting just because I so anyway, you are bringing a vibe in that room that says everybody's going to look at me. So what do you think is going to happen?
They're all going to turn and look at you.
Like I that doesn't have anything to do with the topic we're on today, but like you are creating your reality.
Right.
Okay, let's
Right.
go on.
Right. Whereas for
Sorry.
me, when they all turn and look at me, it's because I'm always the one that's like, right. If it's a meeting like that, unless it's, a big boss meeting, I'm the one coming in at 30 seconds before it starts, kind of thing. So,
They look at me because I light up the room. Everybody has to turn around.
but see, that's the reaction I do anymore too, is they all turn and look, and I'm like,
You're like, hi.
get out of my chair. Yep. Yep. So you scoot over. There's no space over here for me. Yeah. But that wasn't how it was 20, 30 years ago.
No.
So that is not how I felt. I was the shrinking violet, never with friends or, I'm an extrovert, but in those situations, it was very much, ooh, I'll go sit over in the back. I'll sit over here in these chairs so the guys can sit at the table or whatever, right? It's those things, it's programming. And so
Hmm.
deprogramming that to be like, I absolutely deserve a seat at this table. Scoot your ass over. Or yeah, like you said, they did all turn and look at me. Well, I'm going to give them a glorious smile because aren't
Walking in boldly.
woo? Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, it's like a red carpet moment, unless of course you got boogers hanging out or something, and then it's bad.
Well, and it depends on who's in the room too. Like if I'm walking into the CEO's office, I'm not going to be like, look at me.
No, no, and yeah, no, but I'm still
Right?
going to give
Yeah.
a flashy smile because I'm like, oh, control ultimate payroll.
You're paying
Hey,
attention,
kids, you
so
want
I'm
to
gonna
remember this smile because I'd
it got
love.
us hired once.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so let's get into because that's just one example. I mean, that's just a corporate world example. That's an easy one because we can both really easily relate to that. But even walking into your family's house,
Hmm.
a family reunion or something, and maybe there's people you're uncomfortable with, and you assume they're thinking thoughts about you that creates anxiety. And again, how do you deal with that? So first, I think I want to talk about I don't know, grounding first.
Okay. I have a good one for grounding.
Yeah,
And they're probably different, but the one that I use specifically with these folks and these folks are friends. These are not like clients that work with me.
right,
These are friends that rely on me to help them.
right.
Um,
That you're the
it's
first
the
call.
right. So I'm not even sure if it's like got a name, but name the five things you see, four things you can touch, three things you can hear, two things you can smell, and one thing that you could taste. Because what you're doing automatically is getting them out of their left brain. And at the end, it's just like, you're here right now and you're safe.
And see, and that's it, because you're digging in. And what's really cool and I love about that is you've taken him into the five senses then.
Right. Because and that's the grounding aspect. So it's not like roots growing through your feet or,
Right. The
it's a
traditional
different way
spiritual
because
version of it. Yeah, because
yeah,
they
they
don't get
can't
that.
conceptualize or visualize in that moment,
Right.
but they understand their five senses.
And they
Yeah.
understand counting these things
Right.
and looking for those because, like you said, now they've diverted their focus. The focus is off the anxiousness, off those feelings that are causing them that, and they are just there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's really good. Another one that I think was good, and Dr. Parks brought up there too, which I was like, well, we use this one too, but colors in the room. So,
Mhm.
you find one color, you look around your room, find a color that you've just kind of zapped in on that. Now look around the room and see what else is that color? What else has that color in it? And maybe count those items and just do that. By doing that, you've taken yourself out of that anxious state because you've totally focused on something else. Even if it's singing 100 bottles of beer on the wall. Now you've taken yourself out of it because you're like 100 bottles of beer on the wall. And now you got to go on to 99 and 98, and you don't remember what you were worried about.
Right, because your left brain will disengage with what it's hanging on
Uh-huh.
to do the task that you've given it.
Exactly. Exactly. Cool. Yes. And those are some grounding. Of course, the spiritual grounding aspects, there's a couple of good ones. And this gal we were talking about before, she gave us the best grounding one. Was it last week? And we may have talked about it last week too. But using the water And so instead of the roots in the earth, but just connecting to an element of the earth, and in her case, it's the stream, and just how that water goes through and how the water and breathing out and her connection to the universe that way, I was like, oh, I love this. And
Yeah.
I have joined a bench by her stream occasionally now because it's killer. But the roots, planting those roots and digging in deep into the earth and just saying, thank you, Mother Earth. I'm so connected. I bend, I sway, I don't break, and just, ooh, and then putting up your protection and embracing yourself, right? And protecting your own space. It's not for me, it's for somebody else. And I don't own that. Um, but you're right. For the folks that just aren't into the woo woo.
Right. But she is not this person because she's got power. She knows she's got power. She can do whatever she wants. But
Absolutely.
she had felt guilty about like attacking the earth with her grounding.
Yeah,
And the way she kind of explained it is the earth is rising up and giving its energy to her, which the earth always will. When you
right.
ask, the earth will always do that.
Yeah,
But for people who, especially people with really bad anxiety, you might feel like you don't have the right to extend into something like that. So doing it the way she did it kind of lets the earth rise to meet you, which can put you in a different way in your brain.
absolutely. Because it's like going to the instead of trying to imagine this root system and the core and trying to visualize all
Mhm.
these things, now you're standing on a beach and the ocean waves come and crash over you and you've just connected, right?
Yeah,
You've just met her here and there you go. And there's tons of ways to get there and it's just finding what works for you.
she's an amazing teacher. She really
Yes, I
is.
can't wait till she's actually teaching with us at some point.
Well, and if not with she teaches us all the time. Like she's just yeah, she's
She's just
something
like
else.
that. She's
She's
amazing.
just like that. That's right.
Yep, she's just like that. We're blessed to have her as a member, that's for dang sure. And a friend. Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. All right, so that's grounding. Now you found that, but you're already in a panic. The counting's not working. What else can we be doing?
So I have two that I default to, and EFT is one of them, only because um, I spent a lot of time learning about EFT. Like that's the tapping,
Mm-hmm.
which I do use in the manifesting course, which of course is why I thought about it right now because we had talked about that.
Right.
But so that's very specific to manifesting. The EFT here, there's kind of a different way you can do it where you're just saying, even though I feel panic, I deeply love and accept, like just
Mm-hmm.
tapping it out and you have
Right.
this affirmation, but you have to have the affirmation ready because it's going to be really hard to think of something like that when you're in a panic. So that's
Right.
part of a toolbox. Like, what are you going to say? And where are those nerves? Where are you going to find, like, do you remember it?
Mm-hmm.
So, but once you do it, you can say that same affirmation for all of your different pressure points rather than this more standard EFT where you're stepping through different affirmations and,
Right.
and aligning. But you can use one all the way through that can absolutely help you with this.
Yeah. Coming and it can be really basic. I am
Hmm.
completely connected and I don't feel any anxiety or I am completely comfortable in this situation.
I
Or
deeply love and accept myself.
yes, I absolutely am worthy. I am worthy of all good things. And just, like you said, you're just tapping through them and doing these different things. Yeah. But now you can't do that walking into a boardroom or
Right.
walking into, if it's a waitress in a restaurant, she can't walk around, doing this and stuff. People are going to think, okay, number one, she's touching her face or doing all this, and then she's going to serve me food. So, ew. And then what's wrong? Why are you walking around doing these things, right? It's like all of a sudden sitting in the middle of the restaurant and, oh, okay, well, I'm sure you feel better, but everybody else around is, especially those that really don't understand, are going, check, please. Yeah. So, what about breathing? What's your favorite between the box theory and the 478? And then we'll talk about both.
I like the 478 better because I think the long out eight really, I mean, all breathing is going to engage your parasympathetic system,
Yeah,
but the 4-7-8, the 8 out really pushes you to like, first of all, you're counting
right,
and you're pushing out more than you're taking in, or that's what it feels like. But you
right.
start feeling like you're gaining that control and your parasympathetic kicks in right away. I think all breathing works though.
I agree. I agree. And I think 4-7-8 is probably my go-to just because I
Hmm.
agree. Number one, I can breathe out longer, it seems like, but or it feels like a release mechanism, like I'm letting
Right.
go of that much more than I'm taking in. So it's like I'm not taking in as much, which means lessening the stress load and I'm letting go of a lot more. But what it is you're breathing in for 4. So you're counting or 4 seconds, however that looks for you. You're just breathing in, you're holding for 7, and then as you release and you blow out through your mouth for 8. And so it's just until you are just like almost out of breath. And then you breathe in for 4. And this is a really good way to calm your nerves. And it's one of those that's awesome in any situation because unless you're like, no one knows you're doing it, right? It's just you're breathing.
Right.
You're just controlling that tempo a little bit more and getting control. It's almost an easy way to just get your heart rate, settle down, breathe.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love the one Dad was working on too, that Qigong. I've been doing that and I haven't been, I know I'm not doing it right. So I, for those that practice it, please, please, please don't comment. I know I'm doing it wrong. Um, but it's the one where, he started showing us, and as your arms are here, right? As we can see those, and I should be standing, but as you breathe in,
Hmm.
but you have to breathe in more. Right. But then you have pulled in so much breath because you've breathed in like you normally do. But then because you're still stretching, because you're taking your time, you're like, oh, I got to do one more. And you're like, okay. The whole intent, though, is how you control the breathing coming back out because you are being intentionally slow with the connection. And this, of course, is energy. So if you look at Reiki and just our touch points and how we've got so much energy, like we've talked about, and we teach this, but we talk about how this energy is right here and how you can just feel it in your hands. And so when you're doing something like that, you can feel your body coming back together. You feel that energy, but you also have completely released because there is nothing left when you've taken your time and been intentional about how you do that.
And it's the intentional part that helps with anxiety,
It's
with panic attacks.
exactly. And I gotta tell you, that breathing, there's times I'll just middle of the day, I'm standing there, I'm like, oh, yep, now. Okay. And I'll do it both directions. And like I said, I need to reach out to Dad and say, I know I'm doing this wrong and talk me through it again because
Right.
he does a lot of Tai Chi. For those who've listened to us or not before about our dad, but he teaches Tai Chi in his retirement. It was not something that we were privy to when he was a cop
Right.
growing up. Um, very different, very different.
It's not something he was privy to when he was
Right.
taught.
Exactly. He was very much into philosophy and Plato and all those things, but I don't think he didn't
He
he
never stretched that far.
he hadn't tapped into the spiritual side of it yet. And so as he's doing that, he's working with these Qigong experts and leaders and teachers now. And when he just had a health issue here recently, it was somebody else who said because it was lungs and he had pneumonia and they were the ones that reached out and said, you need to do this. And he's like, that helped me more than anything any of the doctors had done. He said, those huge deep breaths and huge exhales. So you think about it from an anxiety point, awesome. But you think about it from a medical point, even better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then kind of that same vein is so a lot about breath, especially when you're in a situation where you can't like do a butterfly hug and
Right.
bilateral stuff. Um, Sighing, but sighing out loud like 3 to 5 times because that's going to activate your vagus nerve as well because you're kind of humming when you sigh.
Oh,
but you
yeah.
don't know that you are.
Right.
So
Right.
if you repeat, a deep breath in and then, you know, 3 or 5 times, again, you're putting yourself in your left brain and you're activating your vagus nerve.
Yep. Yep. Or getting yourself out of your left brain.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
know.
meant.
Because yeah, I mean that's a huge deal. The thing with the sighing is you don't want to do that during a meeting, obviously.
Well, no, and
Because
like you don't have to
people,
maybe be out loud like that. You just need to engage your left brain in a different activity.
right, and to think about because humming is huge. Humming's another great way to do it.
That's true.
And that's why we're meditation and you hear the ohms or just finding that frequency and just yeah, because you're using something and for me that also is engaging my throat chakra, which helps with my communication. And if my communication isn't blocked and my throat chakra is open, I have spoken my truth about other things going on in my life, which relieves some of my anxiety. Because some of my anxiousness comes from being keeping things pent up um, or just not sharing what I think about a particular situation.
Right.
Yeah. And you feel like, you feel trapped or something. I mean, there's something about anxiety that is causing you to feel trapped, to feel like you're backed in a corner. And if it's not being able to speak up, okay, humming, singing, activate your throat chakra. Let it get to a place where you're going, yeah, I disagree. And here's why. Or yes, I agree. Here's why. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there is some more like I don't know. I call them kind of standard, like doing anything that you do normally but backwards, like spelling your name backwards, doing your ABCs backwards, or counting back from 100 by sevens, or not by fives, not something that would just quickly come off your head that you
Right.
could do automatically. So
Right.
anything you can't do automatically, that again is going to engage your left brain into some other behavior. So
Right.
those are really good strong ones too. And I know again, like that's not going to happen in the corporate setting.
But it could if you're taking notes for something and you just have to write a few things backwards. Then you might
That's
giggle
true.
to yourself for a second, like, all right, well, that cleared the mind. Now I got to try and figure out what I was trying to write here and move forward, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But but that's just that's a great example because just anything that you can do where it's just mixing it up so that there has to be thought in another direction on something else so that you're disengaging the logic and the left going, ooh, I have to focus. I have to focus, you know? I mean, I don't know, even grabbing a book and reading like the first word on every page, top of every page, and then streaming that together and see what that makes for a sentence.
Right.
Something as
Yeah,
simple as
that's
that.
perfect because it's something that you don't normally do and you're
Right.
actively pushing yourself to do something else.
Right. You're going through 10 pages, reading the top word for each page and going, okay, that makes zero sense at all. But it's not supposed to. Or if it does,
Right.
well, even more interesting, right? If it becomes all of a sudden a
Right. Then
really,
it's a message.
right, then you're like, okay, thanks, guys. That
Take
was
notes.
mhm. Clear as a bell. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, circling around to a lot of this, one of the things that we agreed that we disagree with the doctor on was how to um
Assimilate.
how to assimilate that or how she recommends assimilation, right? Which is not what we would recommend. Now, I grant that she's a doctor, she's got years of study, she's a psychiatrist. I'm not talking against the medical profession. That is not it at all. I'm saying from a perspective of the anxiety part of that, just forcing yourself to go in and fake it till you make it, or saying, okay, I'm going to walk in here today and today I'm going to smile and today I'm going to do this and today I'm going to do this. Why does it have to just be about that? This is where that shadow work and where we were talking in the very beginning becomes critical because writing it down to figure out why do I feel that way when I walk in a room with these people? Why do I feel like this when I'm in this circumstance, or when this has triggered me at work or at home, or like with your friends, the certain things that wind them up, finances, whatever it is? Why is it? What is it historically that has gotten me here? Did it used to do this to me? And if so, or if it didn't, why does it now? And if it did, why is that?
Yeah, perfect. Yep, exactly. Exactly. And I think that maybe like in a corporate setting, they both have a space there only because you have to go to that meeting. So getting baby steps and feeling better about those baby steps because you have assimilation until you solve the problem. But
Right,
you should be trying to solve the problem while you're faking it until you make it.
right. And I get assimilation to that
Mhm.
point,
Yeah.
but you're assimilating to fit into the mold that you think is being created by others. So now you've
Yep.
created another issue for yourself, because now are you being your authentic self? And you know how we are about that, folks. Uh,
Living authentically? No, not
right?
us.
No, not us. No. Yeah, we don't have that word everywhere, but it's true. So if I have gone in and said, okay, today I'm going to smile, and today I'm going to sit by blah, blah, blah. And today, if it makes me uncomfortable, why on earth would I do that to myself? What I need to do is say, why don't I want to smile? Or if I'm going to fake it till I make it kind of thing, I'm going to find the person in the room that I actually want to smile at and then go throw a smile. Um, and then go sit by, I'm not going to purposely make myself uncomfortable, because to me, that's not growth.
Well,
In
no, you're planning your way around the attack.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You're
and that's
you're
not going to solve the problem. Eventually, that
you're
attack will come back in another way.
you're band-aiding it.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
you're doing is band-aiding this one situation, and you may have solved that by assimilating, but I don't like that word. Why should we have to assimilate to meet the standard of other things to make yourself feel better? When you can breathe, you can meditate, you can write it down, there's all sorts of other alternatives that you can do to examine the cause, and then how you want to join those conversations.
Yeah.
Not
I-
necessarily assimilate. And because we don't have to be like everybody else, or we don't have to. And assimilate to me makes it sound like you've got to fit in. That's how I
Right.
hear assimilate. And so for me, it's just a very trigger word. I don't like it. Um,
She's got some shadow work to do around that word.
I do. It's kind of like collaborate. That word was the most overused word and still is for like the last decade. I don't
Yeah.
want to
And
collaborate with you. I do not. I don't. We'll meet, let's talk, we can brainstorm, but I don't want to collaborate with you about anything. Just saying.
tell me how you really feel.
Right? It's like using utilize versus use. If you can use, say use. I want to,
Utilize sounds so much more important, though.
I know, I want to utilize this pen. Oh, you want to borrow my pen and use it? If you can say it right, I'll let you borrow it. Otherwise, no.
Well, some people were taught to speak differently. Um, okay, so we've gone through like there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways. Like
Oh my
anything you
God.
can think of that's going to take your left brain and make it do something else that
Yes.
gets you out of that panic spin. I think like as you go through this yourself and you start using these different tools to help with your anxiety, may not be a full-on panic attack, but to help you get through those times, what's really important is to write down what helped you because that becomes a
Oh my God.
toolbox item that
Right?
you automatically call up because you know
Yes.
how it's going to make you feel.
Yes. Absolutely. Because it's a reference, it's your dictionary.
It
I mean,
is,
a dictionary,
really.
yeah, it's your dictionary, it's your go-to item of, okay, this is how this makes me feel. What makes me feel better in that situation? This,
Hmm.
you know. And I don't mean just a pint of ice cream makes you feel better. Like it,
It always
what,
makes me feel better.
right? But what is, how do you know this is going to feel better so that it's not a stressor, so your heart's not going like this, you don't feel like you're going to throw up, you don't feel like you have to run and hide, you don't feel like you're going to cry in a situation. Go to the emergency room. Like your friend, I mean,
Right.
who spends way too much time, poor thing, in urgent
And money.
and money, because it's screaming anxiety that again, sometimes you got to dig a little deeper and do a little more work. But until your friend is ready,
Right, because
we're not
they
there.
think once they've passed that panic attack, like maybe it won't happen anymore. And
Right.
we all know it will, but
Yeah.
they'll get there.
Right.
They just need to create their toolbox, which there's some really cool things for tools, like making sure you do have 3 affirmation statements
Yeah.
that you have memorized so you can quickly use them with any tool that can help.
Yep. 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 My little one around my necklace. I am worthy of abundance.
A talisman, that's another good one.
Always
Or a
having that,
crystal, something that grounds you. Like if,
your
yeah,
bracelets. Things that just connect so that when you are in that moment, you're like, I'm worthy of abundance. Settle down. I've got my anything. It doesn't matter, but there's different things around whatever that affirmation is for you. It doesn't have to be some long statement.
no,
It's just, I'm amazing. Okay.
this will pass.
This will pass. Yeah,
I'm safe.
all things will pass. Yeah, I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay. It can be as simple as I'm okay. I'm okay. It doesn't have to be I'm fabulous. It's just got to be acknowledging I'm okay. Okay.
But you do need to take the time, like after you have anxiety or a panic attack or however that comes for you. Really, we're not kidding. You need to journal it. You need to write it down because that is what's going to inform the toolbox that you can create for yourself that gets you out of that spinning world.
Yes.
And it's so critical
Oh
because
my
how
God.
else are you going to build those tools? You're going to start from square zero every single time if you don't write what works down.
Unless you're having that same attack every day with the same people and all that, no.
Right.
It's like, okay, so you go to the doctors. You've been, for me, I think about an example for me where I had some eye things going on for a little bit a couple years ago. And so what I would do is every time that happened, I'd throw a little note in OneNote, what time it happened, what did just for my memory, what did I eat? And was there extra TV? Was there extra caffeine? Was there anything like that that triggered? So that when I went to the eye doctor finally, I was able to reference those dates, look for commonalities, have a conversation, and bring it up. It's the exact same thing. You have to sometimes be your own doctor and look at those notes and go, what are the commonalities? What are the things I can adjust? Is it a commonality not getting enough sleep? Is it too much sleep? Is it too much caffeine? Maybe you should avoid caffeine. There's all sorts of weird things that can cause triggers physically in our body that we can examine. And then you've got your all these tools that you can work with. So you've got breath work and so on. But if you're writing it down, and just paying attention for your own benefit, for your own sanity. Write them down, even if it's a sticky note. I have sticky notes all over the place. Put it on a sticky note.
Yeah. You need the data points. And
Yep.
like everything I do, I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll remember that. Like things that the kids did when they were young, I was like, there's no way I'm going to forget that. I forgot it all.
Uh-huh.
Because if you don't write it down, it doesn't exist anymore because that's just how we work. So you
Right.
need those data
There's a
points,
memory that
something
if
you want to
somebody
solve.
triggers it, you're going to remember it in detail. But you cannot remember every second of every day for the last 50 odd years. Can't
Right.
do it. There's just hypnosis, somebody could bring it out of you.
Mm.
But like going and reading my diary from 20 years ago when your son asked that question a couple of weeks ago and I had to jig out the journal from 1993. I guess that's 30 years ago.
The fact that you still had it made me laugh.
But of course I do. And it just made me laugh because I read it and I'm like, oh my God, I was pathetic. But at the same time, what a charge it brought too, just to see that kind of accomplishment. Yeah. But I hadn't even remembered the camping trips or some of these other things and going, I'm like, oh yeah, we did do that. That was really fun. And then I remembered all of it I remembered being there. I remembered the smells, the images, the people,
Hmm.
because I'd
But
written
you
it
had
down.
to have a data point take you back there.
It
It's,
was
it's
written
when
down.
people wake up and don't remember their dream.
Right. But
If you
yeah,
write it down right
something
as you wake up, you'll remember it, but that's a
exactly.
data point.
Exactly. Or if something triggers it later in the day,
Right.
where you had a dream about a crow and you normally never see crows, and today you saw a crow, and then you're like, oh yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
dreamed about that last night. And then some of it's coming back to you. Yeah, right? It's those data points, like you said. Bullet
Yeah. And
points, data points, journals, whatever you want to call it that makes it work for you, that is going to help you set and understand the pattern of this. And that is going to help you. You can call it shadow work, you can call it reflection, you can call it data points, you can call it whatever you want to, but
Mhm.
it's a way of finding out what is the cause so I can change how it affects or impacts me.
Yeah, so I can take control.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another good thing, like journal right away, but also kind of do um, visualize a light clearing of your energy
Mhm.
because panic attacks really take it out of you. Like
Oh, they do.
really,
They're exhausting.
they are.
And then you want to go to bed. And then there's depression because you feel guilty because you went to bed, because you lost that time, because you had a panic attack. It becomes this vicious circle.
Exactly. You're
And it's
creating a loop.
right. And it's one that you can absolutely control to some degree. There's some things that are just going to cause triggers for us. That's just, but it's how you deal. We
Hmm.
talk about this a lot too. And I've, you heard me teach it to my former stepkids growing up too. Are you gonna act or are you gonna react? It's being proactive versus reactive. If I'm
Yep.
proactive in the steps and I'm journaling it and I'm taking a look at that and then I'm saying what's in my toolbox, I'm having a moment. 4444. I don't have a lot of time, but I can breathe in and I can sit here and think about that square, right? Because it's 4444. So I'm thinking about that and I'm drawing the square and I'm breathing. Oh, thought gone. Cool. Grabbed a toolbox. Or you did a little humming, right? Sighing, like Natalie was talking about. Any of those things that you can reach out and grab to help you mitigate that, always going to help. And then you grab your iPhone or your Android or your iPad or whatever you can to quickly note, here's what happened, here's what caused it, here's what time it was. Think about, I mean, I would even write the foods down. I really would. What's
Yeah, anything that could have been a trigger.
Yep. Is there pollen? If you're into the astrology, write it down, right? You don't
Yeah.
know.
Where's Venus?
Like,
Where's the big five
right.
at?
Yeah. What's my big things that are going on right now? And then as you're looking at that and you start seeing a cycle, you can see what are the similarities. Okay, tackle that. Tackle that.
Right. And that's how you get down to those details like our community member did.
Yep.
Like
Get
she
into
does it
the
really fast because
minutia.
she's very good at it,
Yes,
but
she
you get
is.
down to those, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Getting down to the minutia. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And after you get all of that done, don't forget to hydrate and nourish your body.
Oh my God.
And in that, like, okay, so the water is going to ground you. Drinking water, putting something in your body is a naturally grounding thing. But panic attacks, the folks that call me for help typically get really dehydrated because they sweat profusely. Like they really deplete themselves.
Yeah.
So water not only repletes them, but it repletes, that's not a word. Um, but it also grounds them.
Uh-huh.
And then like nourishment, I suggest like an apple or a carrot or celery, something crunchy, because again, that's going to be that vagus because it's the noise.
Right. In
So, I mean,
inner
you can eat
ear.
whatever you want, but make
Yeah.
sure that you're feeding your body.
Yeah. And they do. And it's just like anything else it, it's amazing. And was a great point that was mentioned and is very, very valid. You could be sitting on your butt 10 hours, working at your desk all day and be exhausted because there were this many meetings, there were stressful conversations. You had to either meet with one of your employees or you had to meet with your boss or you had to have conversations with family members that were really whatever. You were wiped. Water is energy, flat out. Water cleanses and nourishes our body. I say it every day, thanking my water. And it is the fastest, easiest fix. Like you're hungry, drink some water first. Were you really hungry or are you thirsty? And that it's those kind of things like you were talking about that having water. And then of course, as soon as you were saying grab a snack, I'm like, oh yeah, my peanut butter protein bar or Snickers bar because guilty
Well,
pleasure.
in any snack works. It doesn't have to be crunchy, but that
No,
will
but it
keep you from
triggers
going back. Yeah.
exactly, and it's moving the jaw, so
Mhm.
it's your inner ear is doing that right, and then
Yeah.
you're drinking those. So you're taking a second for you.
Yeah. So not only are you hydrating and nourishing, but you're actually grounding and staying centered. And
Right.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
all
Awesome.
good stuff.
Yes. And I think we gave a ton of tips. So, we'll list them out for you. Just these tips and tricks, techniques that you can use. But we're going to tell you if we just want to break it down, we're just going to give you like top three. I'd say what? Start with your shadow work.
Yes. Definitely shadow work.
Talk.
Always be working on your shadow work. Don't let anything blindside you.
No. If you're anxious, you're almost too late. It's kind of like one of those that if you're doing it all the time, dear diary, dear gratitude, dear whatever, dear, I'm ready for today. I'm grateful for blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, you're writing, and this sucked, and this sucked, and this sucked.
Well, and in
Done.
those moments, for people who maybe not know us, we're kind of big into intuition.
Yeah.
In those moments when you're writing, let it flow. Even if the shit doesn't make sense,
Yep.
let it come and then read it later and be like, oh my God, and have those cathartic moments.
Yeah.
And that's what you dig deep on because your body's like, hey, you want to hear about this? This is
Right.
what the problem is.
Right. I wrote it down for you earlier. You were,
Right?
yeah. Oh, I know. I was journaling this morning. You say that, and just tangent, but I'm like, yep, here it comes. Just keep writing. You're thinking about it. It's a form of automatic writing, even though I'm not listening to spirit kind of do that in that capacity. But at the same time, I'm putting pen to paper and writing whatever's coming to my mind. And it's
Right. Which is
emptying the
right.
space. That's why my mind is empty, everybody, because I emptied the space. No, it's getting it out. It's just writing it down. All right. Second, breathing,
Yeah.
grounding. I mean, I think grounding's probably first in some capacity.
Every day you need to be grounding every day, whether you're having anxiety, panic, you need to ground every day.
Yeah,
All day, every day.
all day, every day.
Like
All
if
day, every
if
day,
you feel a little spidey sense, ground first.
right? Be like, oh no, not my bubble. Nope, nope.
Right.
And I'll be like, nope, connected, connected, and my bubble's up. You can't come through this. This is my private space. Yeah,
Right.
because it's such a if you think about it of the mind of a little kid, and you are a superhero, and your superhero cape is like gold colored, right? Or really cool purple or whatever. And you're like, oh no, not here. You don't see me. That's your
Well,
protection. It's your bubble.
and I can give you an example like in action, when you know something's coming and you do that, and all of a sudden the person forgets what they were going to say. Don't
Boom.
tell me that's not your spirit guide wiping their mind like got it.
Yep. Yep. Mic drop.
And it happens all the time. If
Yep.
you do this and you pay attention and you're like, nope, grounded, they'll be like, oh, I don't remember what I was gonna say. And you just be like, thank you, spirit.
Right. Boom. It's so true too. You're like, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure I knew what you were going to say, but I'm not going to
but I didn't
remind
want to
you.
hear
We're
it.
done. I'm leaving now.
It's true, isn't it? It happens more often than
All
like
the time.
we don't pay attention to it maybe very often anymore. But when I first started watching for it, I was like, oh my God, I love my spirit team
Right.
because they really do protect me.
Right. You got that bubble up and you're like, oh,
Grounded,
oh, I'm
connected,
cloaked. I'm
I'm all
cloaked.
set.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. Superman has gone into his telephone booth and capes up. Forget it. Done.
Yeah, invisible shield. You can't see me.
Right. Done. And it does. And it happens a lot where they're like, I was just going to tell you, what was I talking about? I don't know. But look at the time. I gotta go.
Right? Let me know when you think about it. Email me, I'll get back to you.
All right. And our last one, at least easy toolbox, right? We're going for the easy ones. There's so many great tools, everybody. But your shadow, journaling, reflection, your grounding, and last we'll say breath work.
Hmm.
Whether that is meditation and actually just taking time for yourself every day to find that meditation, whether it's the four box or you know,
Four, seven,
478,
eight, yeah.
or like the Qigong or Tai Chi,
Right.
any form of meditation, any form of energy, any form of movement, anything that is causing you to be intentional about your breathing and is causing you to move your body a little bit as you do that. Because think about it, if you're doing the 4 box or you're doing 4-7-8, you're breathing and you're being intentional because all of a sudden your shoulders are back, you're taking deep breaths, that makes your head come back. It's all energy. And so it's all things that are working through you and getting you reconnected.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. And well, and I know we're not talking about compassion right now,
um,
but it also makes you more compassionate
yes,
because you've grounded yourself. You brought yourself back into the moment. So even if you're getting a call on your phone, you're like, I really don't want to talk to that dick. But at the same time, you're like, I'm just going to breathe for a second before I
right,
answer.
right.
Because that pulls you back into, I can have this conversation. I can be an adult about this,
Yep,
you know?
yep.
So it kind of gives you a space to take your space
Yeah, it
and
does.
be compassionate.
Yes, absolutely. And empathetic.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
lots
that
of things happens through breath work.
absolutely, because you've taken the time. And so you hear better, you're more receptive to people, you are just all of those things, right? Everything comes with it because by you being present, by you
Yes.
just sitting and taking that moment and being present,
Yeah.
you don't feel like you're spun up. You don't feel like you've got, you know how there's, and we all have them, the people that have, I know what I'm going to say. They're waiting for you to just finish what you're saying because they've got something to add to it, even
Yep,
though they
everywhere.
totally not listen to you anymore. They're just waiting for their time. It gets you out of that space. You don't have something you're waiting to say. You're listening
Hmm.
because
Mindful.
you,
Present is a very good word there because being mindful, you're back in your body, you're
yes,
present, you're centered, and you're listening.
yep, being present, best gift you can give yourself and best gift you can give everybody else. It's
For
present.
real.
That's why they call it a present. Yay.
Yay.
All right. I think we're done. We'll share the tips. Um,
But
we,
there's thousands out there
oh my
if
gosh.
you're like in a situation. So look those up to build your toolbox.
Yep. And write down those affirmations. Guys, seriously, as something as simple as, oh, er, a little tiny notepad like this, right? Your little sticky notes. You take
Mhm.
these, you can stick them around your desk, you can stick them in your mirror in your bathroom. You can grab a dry erase marker right on your mirror, just so that every morning that first affirmation is the thing you see in the morning. Boom, done. And it wipes off really easy. It's not, don't use permanent marker. Just saying. But, it's something that you can see really easy.
And it makes it easy to memorize if you see it every morning. So then
Yeah.
it's in your toolbox if you're not home.
Right. Because then you're like, what's it say on my mirror? You are worthy of all great things. Yep. Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Everything always works out for me.
Everything always works out for me. All right. Cool. We mentioned at the very top of the show the framework for living your soul, which is our 6-week program. It is intense. Um, but if you really want to get intense, we will be making public the foundation for spiritual living. That is a 1 year, although those that are taking it right now for us or with us would say that they would love to see it go 18 months just because of the amount of content so far, and they are only in month 2. So you pay for the courses, but you pay for a lot of content and one-on-one interaction and community. And so we hope you'll check those out, as those are, the framework for living your soul is already available on our site. We do offer our manifestation course, which we will
I
reopen.
always talk about, I don't know, in every podcast for some reason.
Right, right. Manifestation's huge. It's huge. But
Well,
there's
it is big, but like, yeah.
but there's a
But
new, oh, it started pouring here. What?
living your soul is definitely where you want to start though.
Yeah, I agree. The framework for living your soul, especially if you're not ready for a year commitment. If you know you're in it and you really want to get deep into it, then go right into the foundation for spiritual living. And the reason I say that is because there is so much, all of the content that we deal with in living your soul is magnified 1,000 times, as well as getting into astrology, getting into divination tools, getting into the seasons. So we touch on the spells and things like that. We touch on all the lunar cycles. We deal in astrology, like I mentioned. We deal in the clairs. We do all of those things. plus
Right.
paranormal and working with you on how to do your own paranormal experiences and so on. So it's gigantic, but it is a year commitment. And yeah. So anyway,
It's cool though. It is cool.
it is awesome. We're super proud of them, which is why I'm talking about them for so long. They were a lot of work. So we're very proud of these. Um, anyway, with that, immersivespirit.com, you can always go and check all of these out. We are so excited that you joined us today. We'll share all the tips and tricks. Anything else you want to add?
We haven't talked enough. You got us on a timer and I'm unaware. Like, what do you want me to say here?
Right?
No, I don't have anything to add.
And that's her. Boom, boom. All right.
All right, watch me walk in the room.
Right? And watch us walk out.
Right, and now I guess we're done.
And the end. All right. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natalie.
From High Heels to Happy Feels and from Immersive Spirit, we thank you. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.